Ah.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Dandavad pranam.
Hare Krishna.
So, Hare Krishna and welcome everyone again. On behalf of the School of Vedic Studies, we are having actually the second session of the day. Morning, many of you may have attended the session with His Holiness Bhagavān Gosvāmī Maharaj on the overview or structural overview of the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And here we are getting together again for yet another wonderful session, which we are indeed looking forward to with His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj, which is a course on the 12 Mahajans. And today we will have the session on Sri Prahlāda Mahārāja. It is indeed our honor, privilege, and a good fortune to have Maharaj amongst us, taking us through these sessions, which have been wonderful in terms of our edification and education. So without much ado, I pass on the mic to His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj. His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, over to you.
Hello. Sorry, my screen is frozen here a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Now it's on. Om Ajnanatmirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshusumiltam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpatrubhyasya Kripa Sindhuvyacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing with our series of Mahajans. Today we are doing Prahlāda Mahārāja. So Prahlāda Mahārāja is the 7th Mahajan in the series of 12 Mahajans. We'll go a little bit into the history of Prahlada's appearance and then what his basic teachings are. So this is a short presentation. It is said that during the Satya Yuga, the sage Kashyap and his wife Diti had 2 sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Both were known to cause destruction and chaos everywhere, trouble the humans and the devas alike. The demigods, being fed up with their atrocities, prayed to Lord Vishnu to come up with a solution to stop the brothers. So this is Hiranyaksha and the avatar of Lord Vishnu as Varaha came to destroy him. And there was a battle ensued, and of course in the battle Varaha killed Hiranyaksha. And because Hiranyaksha was killed, Hiranyakashipu became very much upset that his brother was killed by Vishnu. Vishnu is the cause of his death. So he also began to take the revenge. He said, I will now kill Vishnu. So of course, you know, he was also killed, as we all know from the Bhagavatam, that Nrsimhadev appeared to protect his devotee Prahlāda and annihilate Hiranyakashipu. So Lord Varaha and Hiranyaksha had an intense fight, one that shook the whole world. Finally, Lord Varaha was able to mow down Hiranyaksha with his tusk and carried the earth on his tusk and place her on in a rightful position in the universe and restored the balance of the world. This brought a lot of relief to the demigods and the humans alike. But their happiness was short-lived as Hiranyaksha's brother Hiranyakashipu swore revenge on Lord Vishnu for killing his brother and caused immeasurable destruction in the world, scaring everyone around. He led his army of Asuras to destroy everything good in the world. but he met with the might of the Devas. He came to know that the Devas were being helped by Lord Vishnu, and he promised to be the reason to the end of Vishnu. He decided to go deep into the jungle and pray to Lord Brahma for a boon of immortality. He soon forgot about all his worldly desires and senses and lost in his meditation. So of course, Hiranyakashipu went into the deep depths of the forest, performing tremendous austerities. And in these austerities, he was trying to invoke the mercy of Brahma. Meanwhile, Lord Indra realized that the Asuras were not being led by Hiranyakashipu. He thought this was the perfect opportunity to attack the Asuras as they were without a leader. And it would be easier to win the war between Devas and the Asuras. So he attacked the Asuras with the full force, and as expected, was able to kill most of them and win the war. He destroyed the whole of Hiranyakashipu's capital city in the process and decided to march on to his palace. Over there, he found Hiranyakashipu's wife, Kayadu. He thought of taking her as a prisoner and use her as a hostage if Hiranyakashipu would ever decide to retaliate. Right at that moment, Narada Muni arrived and stopped Lord Indra from doing so. He angrily asked Indra, why was he forcibly taking a woman as a prisoner? Indra told him that he was going to use her as a hostage just in case Hiranyakashipu decided to attack him again. Hearing this, Narada Muni asked him to release the woman right at that very instance, as she had no role to play in the war between the Asuras and the Devas. She was just an innocent and helpless woman. So Narada Muni is here and very angrily asking Indra that he is doing a dharma by taking a woman who had no role to play in the war. So of course, Indra submissively submitted to Narada Muni's request, and he left. Indra had no other options but to let her go. After he released her, Narada asked her if she was okay, and she told him that she was a bit shaken and shocked, but otherwise she was fine. She also told him that she was pregnant and she wanted to stay with Narada and serve him just like his daughter, as she had no other place to go. Narada accepted to this, and Kayadu started living in Narada's hermitage. Narada used to tell her stories about Lord Vishnu, and she developed a sense of attachment for Lord Vishnu after listening to his stories. Her unborn baby also used to listen to the stories, and he would go on to become one of the greatest devotees of Lord Vishnu. So Narada would recite regularly, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. And Kayadu would listen to this, and she would get very much enlightened by hearing the transcendental glories of the Supreme Lord. And of course, Prahlāda was in the womb, hearing also all this transcendental knowledge and glories of the Supreme Lord. So from the very inception of Prahlāda, he became very much attached to Lord Vishnu. And of course, in this slide, we see Narada Muni blessing him. By Sri Narada Muni's blessings on Sri Prahlāda, he was born a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Meanwhile, the heat generated from Hiranyakashipu's penances was so intense and powerful that the Devas could feel it in heaven. Finally, they weren't able to bear the heat anymore and went to Lord Brahma and requested him to heed to the prayers of Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu was performing tremendous austerities, and we all know from the Puranas, many examples are there, that when you do tremendous austerities, great fire comes from the body, intense heat comes, and that could cause a lot of problems to the world. So of course, the demigods approached Brahma, and Brahma then appeared in front of Hiranyakashipu to give him audience. Brahma was really pleased with Hiranyakashipu's devotion and granted him any boon that he wished for. Hiranyakashipu told him that he wanted to be immortal. Brahma told him that such a wish wasn't possible, as it would distort the order of balance of life. So after a lot of thinking, Hiranyakashipu finally came up with a plan. He asked Lord Brahma to grant him a boon that would allow no man, god, or animal created by Brahma to kill him. Also, nobody could kill him at day or night, and no one could kill him in the heaven or on earth. Also, no one can kill him with a weapon or kill him either inside or outside his house. So Hiranyakashipu was thinking very smart, intelligently thinking, I will cover every angle possible through which death can approach him. And he came up with this plan and he asked Lord Brahma for the boon. After a lot of thinking, he finally decided to grant the boon to him. Overjoyed, he went back to his kingdom. Over there, he was saddened to see the condition of his kingdom. He decided to take revenge on Indra for being the cause of all this. He fought with the Devas all alone and defeated them and banished them from Devaloka. He then became the ruler of heaven. Prahlada Mahārāja, a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. So of course, by the time when Hiranyakashipu came from his tapasya with his boons, he was overjoyed. He came to his palace and he found his wife was not there. Finally located his wife. And of course, she had already given birth to a beautiful young child, Prahlad. So he found his wife and son on the earth and brought them back to his kingdom. Unlike the evil and wild Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad, his son, was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu and prayed to him all the time. Once while talking to Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu was surprised to hear him sing the praises of Lord Vishnu. Furious, he punished Prahlad's teachers and asked him to keep an eye on him. With time, Hiranyakashipu got more and more furious at Prahlad for praying to Lord Vishnu. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and asked his guards to kill Prahlad. The guards reluctantly agreed to kill him, but with each blow on Prahlad, their swords would crumble into pieces and Prahlad would remain unharmed. So Hiranyakashipu is very, very angry with his son, very upset that he is not following the asuric qualities and following his father's footsteps. On the contrary, he is so much absorbed in Vishnu and chanting his holy names. So Hiranyakashipu threatened Prahlad not to pray to Lord Vishnu. Hiranyakashipu asked for some poisonous snakes to bite Prahlad, but he still remained unharmed. He then let loose mad elephants at him, but the elephants did not attack him at all. He decided to call his sister Holika and ask her to make him sit on her lap and burn him to his death. He thought that this plan would work at least because it was Holika who was immune to fire, who burnt down to ashes. So of course, we know from the Puranas that Holika, his sister, was given a boon that fire cannot burn her in any way, except that there was a small loophole in that boon that if she did misdeeds, then the fire would not tolerate that misdeeds and the fire would be the cause of her death. So Prahlad was attacked by his Hiranyakashipu's servants. They tried to kill him in every which way and then throw him over the cliff. Finally, mad elephants were used to kill him. That wasn't successful, as we heard recent. And then finally, Holika places Prahlad on his lap and enticed Prahlad that, come Prahlad, I'm your auntie. I love you very much. And of course, Prahlad, as a young innocent boy, said, yes, I will come and do as you wish. So he sat on her lap and then there was a big, huge fire. In the process, Prahlad was not even his hair was not scorched, but Holika got completely burnt to ashes. Now Hiranyakashipu was stumped. He was out of ideas and his anger had reached its peak. He dragged Prahlad and asked him if his Lord Vishnu was present in the room with them. Prahlāda told him that the Lord was everywhere, and in his frustration, Hiranyakashipu mocked Prahlāda and asked him, is his Lord, if his Lord was present in the pillar next to him? Prahlāda told him that he was. In a rage, Hiranyakashipu kicked the pillar, and out came the ferocious being who was half man and half lion. So this is the transcendental appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev to come and protect his devotee. The creature screamed in the booming voice that he was Nrsimha, one among the 10 avatars of Lord Vishnu, who had come down to the earth to kill Hiranyakashipu. He held Hiranyakashipu in a vice-like grip and dragged him to the threshold of the door, which was neither outside nor inside the house. He placed him on his lap, which was neither in the sky nor on earth. He killed him with his claws at twilight without using any weapons. After killing him, the half man, half lion gave a loud roar, which scared away all the asuras in fright. No one dared to approach the beast. But Prahlāda went up to him with utter devotion in his eyes and thanked him for saving his life. When asked about his father, Lord Nrsimha told him that Hiranyakashipu was actually Lord Vishnu's gatekeeper, Vijay, who was cursed and who needed to take 3 births to go back to Vaikuntha. So Prahlāda is now humbly offering his respects to Nrsimhadev without any fear, and all the demigods appeared to take audience and blessings of Nrsimhadev. Prahlāda was made the king of his father's kingdom, and he ruled with utmost honesty and goodwill, which also changed the ways of the asuras. Thus, Lord Vishnu had taken incarnation of half man, half lion, half man to save both his devotee and Prahlāda from the wrath of Hiranyakashipu. And he helped Vijaya, his gatekeeper, to somewhat make progress in overcoming the curse. So, Srila Prabhupada had placed a lot of emphasis on the teachings of Prahlāda Mahārāja, and the BBT had produced one booklet called the Transcendental Teachings of Prahlāda Mahārāja. So this is available. If you are interested, go very deep into the teachings of Sri Prahlāda Mahārāja, then I recommend that you read this book and enter the spirit of Sri Prahlāda in pure mood of devotion to the Lord. So in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, text 2, Prahlāda Mahārāja was already educated in devotional service. But when his father sent him to those 2 sons of Sukracharya to be educated, they accepted him at the school along with other sons of Asuras. Prahlāda certainly heard and recited the topics of politics and economics taught by his teachers. But he understood that political philosophy involves considering someone a friend and someone else as an enemy. And thus, he did not like it. Prabhupada says in the purport, politics involves accepting one group of men as enemies and another group as friends. Everything in politics is based on this philosophy. And the entire world, especially at the present, is engrossed in it. The public is concerned with friendly countries and friendly groups, or enemy countries and enemy groups. But it is stated in Bhagavad Gita, a learned person does not make distinctions between enemies and friends. Devotees especially do not create friends and enemies. A devotee sees every living entity, every living being as part and parcel of Krishna. This is in the Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, text 7. My dear King Yudhishthira, once upon a time a king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, took his son Prahlāda on his lap and very affectionately inquired, my dear son, please let me know what do you think is the best of all the subjects you have studied from your teachers. Prahlāda Mahārāja replied, O best of Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any persons who have accepted a temporary body and a temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by the anxieties because of having fallen in the dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest, Vana. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent. and one should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just imagine, little boy, 5-year-old Prahlāda, such a deep, profound understanding that he's speaking to his father, and he's not addressing his father as father, but he's saying, oh, best of asuras, the king of demons. Then, of course, he speaks so nicely about the depth of philosophy and how one is falling into this dark well of Andhakupam, as Prabhupada says, of suffering. One should come out of that. Hiranyakashipu thought that Prahlāda, being nothing but a small boy with no actual experience, might reply with something pleasing, but nothing practical. Prahlāda Mahārāja, however, being an exalted devotee, required all the qualities of education. One who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna consistently manifests all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods. This is the underlying principle Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport. One who has unflinching devotional faith in Krishna consistently manifests all the good qualities of Krishna and the demigods. However, he who has no devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no good qualifications because he is engaged by the mental concoction in material existence, which is an external feature of the Lord. Narad Muni continued. When Prahlāda Mahārāja spoke about the path of self-realization in devotional service, thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, heard Prahlāda's words, and he laughingly said, thus is the intelligence of a child spoiled by the words of the enemies. Prahlāda Mahārāja replied, let me offer my respectful obeisance unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose external energy has created a distinction of my friend and my enemy by deluding the intelligence of man. Indeed, I am now actually experiencing this, although I have previously heard it from the authoritative sources. When Hiranyakashipu saw that his child had fallen at his feet and was offering obeisances as an affectionate father, he immediately began showering blessings upon the child and embraced him with both arms. A father naturally feels happy to embrace his son, and Hiranyakashipu became very happy in this way. Narad Muni continued, my dear King Yudhishthira, Hiranyakashipu seated Prahlāda Mahārāja on his lap and began smelling his head. With affectionate tears gliding down from his eyes and motioning the child's smiling face, he spoke to his son as follows. Hiranyakashipu was very much overwhelmed by little Prahlāda. He picked him up, put him on his lap, like most affectionate fathers would, but his affection is not going to be long-lasting because very soon he will be very much disappointed by Prahlāda. So Hiranyakashipu said, my dear Prahlāda, my dear son, O long-lived one, for so much time you have heard many things from your teachers. Now please repeat to me whatever you think is the best of that knowledge. In this verse, Hiranyakashipu inquires from his son what he has learned from his gurus. Prahlāda Mahārāja's gurus were of two kinds, Sanda and Amarka, the sons of Sukracharya, in a seminal disciplic succession, were the gurus appointed by his father. But his other guru was the exalted Narada Muni, who had instructed Prahlāda when Prahlāda was within the womb of his mother. Prahlāda Mahārāja responded to the inquiry of his father with the instructions he had received from his spiritual master, Narada Muni. Thus there was again a difference of opinion because Prahlāda Mahārāja wanted to relate the best thing he had learned from his spiritual master, whereas Hiranyakashipu expected to hear about the politics and diplomacy Prahlāda had learned from Sananda and Amarka. Now the dissension between the father and son became increasingly intense as Prahlāda Mahārāja began to say what he had learned from his guru Narada Muni. Sri Prahlāda Vacha, Sravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam Achanam, Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. This is a very famous verse of Prahlāda Mahārāja teaching us the 9 processes of bhakti. So in the 7th canto, 5th chapter, text 23-24, Prahlāda Mahārāja said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name forms and qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of the Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the mind, with the body, mind, and words, these 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. Devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So, in this slide, we see the 9 different processes of bhakti. Shravanam. The Shravanam is perfected by Parikshit Maharaj, who heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from Śukadeva Gosvāmī. Kirtanam is perfected by devotees who are constantly chanting the glories. Here, the slide is depicting Mirabai, who is always singing the glories, although she was born as a princess in a princely household. She dedicated this for worshipping and singing glories of the Lord. Kirtana, Smaranam, remembering. Here is a slide of Haridas Thakur, is remembering the Lord constantly. And Padasevanam is the Transcendental Lakshmi Devi. She is always serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Then Archanam, great devotees who perform Archana, worship of the deities. Vandanam, offering prayers. And the perfection of prayers, of course, is Dhruva Maharaj. Dasyam, becoming a servant of the Lord. Hanuman, he became the perfect ideal servant to Lord Ramachandra. Sakhyam, considering the Lord as your best friend. So Arjuna considered Lord Krishna as his best friend. And Atmanivedana, complete surrender, total surrender. Here is a slide of Rupa Goswami, fully surrendering to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. And another example of full surrender is one of the Mahajans, Bali Mahārāja. So after hearing these words of devotional service from the mouth of his son Prahlāda, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry, his lips trembling. He spoke as follows to Sanda, the son of his guru, Sukracharya. O unqualified, most heinous son of Brahmana, you have disobeyed my orders and taken shelter of the party of my enemies. You have taught this poor boy about devotional service. What is this nonsense? The son of Sukracharya, Hiranyakashipu's spiritual master, said, O enemy of King Indra, O king, whatever your son Prahlāda has said was not taught to him by me or anyone else. His spontaneous devotional service has naturally developed in him. Therefore, please give up your anger and do not unnecessarily accuse us. It is not good to insult a Brahmana in this way. Sri Narada Muni continued. When Hiranyakashipu received this reply from the teacher, he again addressed his son Prahlāda. Hiranyakashipu said, You rascal, most fallen of our family, if you have not received this education from your teachers, where have you gotten it? Prahlāda Mahārāja replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress towards hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclination towards Krishna are never aroused either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by the combination of both. So of course, Prahlāda is saying those who are so much uncontrolled their senses and addicted to materialistic life, they will never even understand instructions, either even if they receive instructions from a saintly person or by their own intelligence, they will still fail to understand this. As we see in our own experience in this material world, that when we preach to someone and with good faith, we want to correct them in their path, but still they are not appreciative or they accept the transcendental devotional service. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. As blind men guided by another blind man misses the right path and falls into the ditch, materially attached men led by another materially attached man are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in the materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. Unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, completely free from material contamination, persons very much inclined towards materialistic life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified by the uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, in this way can one be free from material contamination. So this is a very important verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, completely free from material contamination, persons very much inclined towards materialistic life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified by uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, in this way can one be freed from material contamination. So we should embrace this verse very much deeply in our heart and follow the instructions given here, that seek out a bona fide spiritual master who is totally surrendered to his spiritual master, and he is a perfect example of a Vaishnava, and take the dust from his lotus feet, and thereby you will then be freed from material contamination and be placed on the pedestal of pure devotional service. My dear King Yudhishthir, all the children were very much affectionate and respectful to Prahlāda Mahārāja, and because of their tender age, they were not so polluted by the instructions and actions of their teachers, who were attached to condemn duality and bodily comforts. Thus the boys surrounded Prahlāda Mahārāja, giving up their playthings, and sat down to hear him. Their hearts and eyes being fixed upon him, they looked at him with great earnest. Prahlāda Mahārāja, although born in a demon family, was an exalted devotee, and he desired their welfare. Thus he began instructing them about the futility of materialistic life. So Prahlāda is engaging his classmates, although all of them are born as asuras. And this slide is very nicely depicting that even though they were born asuras, they were looking like beautiful young devotees, taking shelter of the holy names under the guidance of Prahlāda Mahārāja, and singing and dancing and wonderfully enjoying the spirit of devotion. So Srimad Bhagavatam chapter 6, Prahlāda instructs his demoniac schoolmates. Prahlāda Mahārāja said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporarily like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. This is very important, the power of devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. I was just reading one very nice instruction by Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said that if we endeavor with sincerity and purity in the heart and offer a little service, Krishna will never forget this service which you rendered to him. The human form of life affords one a chance to return home back to Godhead. Therefore, every living entity, especially in a human form of life, must engage in devotional service to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. This devotional service is natural because Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the most beloved, master of the soul, and the well-wisher of all other living entities. Prahlāda Mahārāja continued, my dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities, Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. Endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed, for they result only in a loss of time and energy with no actual profit. If one's endeavors are directed towards Krishna consciousness, one can surely attain the spiritual platform of self-realization. There is no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development. Prabhupada says in the purport, we see materialistic persons busily engaged in economic development all day and all night, try to increase their material opulences. But even if we suppose that they get some benefit from such endeavors, that does not solve the real problem of their lives. Nor do they know what the real problem of life is. This is due to lack of spiritual education. Especially in the present age, every man is in darkness in the bodily concept of life, not knowing anything of the spirit soul and its needs. Misguided by the blind leaders of society, people consider the body to be everything, and they engage in trying to keep the body materially comfortable. So this actually is a perfect description Srila Prabhupada is giving of ourselves, that this is what we are doing all day and night, spending our energies, try to keep the body materially comfortable and make comfortable situations. But of course, in the previous verse, we understood Prahlāda Mahārāja is saying that this will come to you automatically anyway, according to your dues by the karma you have performed previously. Just like distress is also coming without invitation, happiness and comfort will also come to you without invitation. So Krishna says, karmani eva adhikarastu ma phaleshu kadachan. Simply do your duties as prescribed in the scriptures and everything will become perfect. Such a civilization is condemned because it does not lead humanity towards knowing the real goal of life. People are simply wasting time and valuable gift of human form because a human being who does not cultivate spiritual life but dies like cats and dogs is degraded in his next life. From human life, such a person is put into the cycle of continuous birth and death. Thus, one loses the true benefit of human life, which is to become Krishna conscious and solve life's problems. Therefore, while in material existence, Brahmā asrita, a person fully competent to distinguish wrong from right must endeavor to achieve the highest goal of life, as long as the body is stout and strong and is not embarrassed by dwindling. My dear friends, O sons of the demons, it is certain that no one bereft of the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been able to liberate himself from material bondage at any time or any country. Rather, those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bound by the material laws. They are fully addicted to sense gratification and their target is women. Indeed, they are actually playthings in the hands of attractive women. Prabhupada gives an interesting example in the purport. Victimized by such conception of life, they become surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and thus they are shackled to material bondage. Those who are very much addicted to this conception of life are called demons. Therefore, although you are sons of demons, keep aloof from such persons, take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, the origin of all the demigods, because the ultimate goal of the devotees of Narayan is liberation from the bondage of material existence. Therefore, my dear young friends, born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers. The The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya mam abhijananti yavana yaschasmi tattvata. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. Prahlāda Mahārāja ultimately instructs his class friends, the sons of the demons, to accept the process of devotional service by preaching the science of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. The Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied with one who engages in this service of preaching Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 18, chapter 18, text 69. Nacha tasmam manasyasu kaschit me priya kritama. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Of course, Krishna is saying that if we preach about him, then we become very dear to him. And this is the actual essence of becoming Krishna conscious, to become very dear to the Supreme Lord. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and his supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes a dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is bhakti. Religion, economic development, and sense gratification. These are described in the Vedas as three varga, or three ways of salvation. Within these three categories are education and self-realization, ritualistic ceremonies performed according to Vedic injunctions, logic and science of law and order, and the various means of earning one's livelihood. These are the external subject matters of study in the Vedas, and therefore I consider them material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu to be transcendental. Prahlāda Mahārāja continued, I received this knowledge from the great saint Narada Muni, who is always engaged in devotional service. This knowledge, which is called bhāgavata-dharma, is fully scientific. It is based on logic and philosophy and is free from all material contamination. So, of course, Prahlāda Mahārāja is giving us by his own example that if you follow this transcendental process of bhakti, devotional service, become very dear to the Lord, then that ferocious incarnation of the Lord, Nrsimhadev, who appears as personification of death to the non-devotees, appears as the wonderful embracing Lord. And this slide is a very nice perfection of that sentiment. The ferocious Lord Nrsimhadev, he embraces with great love and affection to his devotees. So our business is to become fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord. And no matter what happens in our material endeavors, Krishna will take care of everything. We just have to follow in his instructions, and engage in pure devotional service, and then the Lord will embrace us. And when we are embraced by the Supreme Lord, then all perfection is achieved by us. This is the teachings of Sri Prahlāda Mahārāja. So I thank you all very much. If you have any questions, I think we have about 10, 12 minutes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So we will have everyone on the screen. Yes, here. So let's get the gallery on. Yes. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj. So we will open up for reflections, comments, questions. We have certainly about close to 15 minutes or 14 minutes. So please, the normal process protocol is just raise your hand and then we will reach out to you, unmute yourself and ask your question or a reflection or a comment. Okay, so we have Anupama Radharani Mataji to go first and then Murlidhar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. It was a very enlivening session. Maharaj, I had a question. Do we know on which planet this pastime was performed? Did Lord Narasimhadev appear here? Because there is in Ahobilam in Andhra Pradesh, I think. It is believed that he appeared there, but some people believe that it did not take place on planet Earth.
Well, see, according to the story of Prahlāda Mahārāja and Hiranyakashipu, of course, he was, in one of the hellish, not hellish planet, but say one of the planets where he was controlling that. And from there, he waged wars against the demigods and controlled the whole universe. So in one aspect, you can say that that was considered his kingdom, although there is no specific mention of his specific planet where he appeared. Now, there are a number of, we have to take this in context that as far as we are concerned in the present state of time, in the past few Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga, this is the time scale when this appearance of these lords came. But there are many, many instances where they're saying that the Lord appears millennium after millennium in different yugas, in a different day of Brahmā, and he performed different pastimes. So there is, of course, my belief from physical proof, you can say, as you said, Ahobilam, that in Ahobilam there is that stamba, which is said that this is a stamba from which Nrsimhadev appeared. And not only that, but if you have been to Ahobilam, and I had good fortune to be there 3 times, it has got 9 different temples of Nrsimhadev located in the different parts of the Ahobilam area, all hilly areas except for 2 which are in the low level land. All these are described by the Pandits who are staying there in Ahobilam, said that each Nrsimhadev appeared in a different yuga. So although there are 9 Nrsimhadev's temples there of different names given to those lords which have appeared there, they came in different yugas. So from that we can say that maybe that is a place where Lord comes as his eternal abode. Although you see, just like we understand Vrindavan is not part of UP, India. It is actually a transcendental part of the spiritual world which manifests in this material world. Similarly, as other holy places, they manifest here. So I will assume that Ahobilam is a transcendental place where Lord appears in his different yugas and different times. And I believe personally that that is the place where the Lord appeared. And since the stamba is there from which he appeared, so I would assume that that was the palace at some stage, in the bygone days, that palace was a magnificent palace there, which has been deteriorated now due to the effect of time. But that is where Hiranyakashipu had his palace, I suppose. I hope that clears your doubt and query.
Yes,
have you been
yes.
to, by the way, have you been to Ahobilam?
Me, Maharaj?
Yes.
No, Maharaj. I have just seen a documentary. There was one devotee, ISKCON devotee. He made a very nice documentary. So I have just seen it on television.
Okay, then I think I will request Rasakrila that when the corona is over, we'll get a Middle East yatra to Ahobilam.
Absolutely. That's a very wonderful suggestion, Maharaj.
Maharaj, can you thank you so much for this wonderful answer. And if time permits, can you just speak a little bit about your visit to Ahobilam? Thank you, Maharaj. Koti Koti Pranam.
Okay, I will first let me answer the 2 questions. There are 2 people there, and then we have some time. I will get into that. So, what's the next question?
Muralidhar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj.
Humble obeisance, Maharaj. Yeah, thank you very much, Maharaj. Such a wonderful session. It is really, we have seen the good film of Prahlāda Mahārāja. Just like that, we have seen in our mind, in the mind screen. Such a wonderful class, Maharaj. Maharaj, just only on small question, Maharaj. This Holika, Hiranyakashipu's sister, burned herself after she kept Prahlāda Mahārāja on her lap. Is it due to the Vaishnava Aparadha, Maharaj?
No, you see, Holika was given a boon just like Hiranyakashipu was given boon. She was born now. I don't know exactly which sage gave her the boon that she cannot be burnt by fire. But as all boons go, there is always a small loophole in it that if you misuse that boon for acts which are against the principle of humanity, you can say, then that will be counterproductive. But Holika was so much overwhelmed by the power that she can burn anything and everything. So she wanted to please her brother. So she said, yes, I will do this deed for you. And of course, in that, she forgot that the deed she's going to do is against the principle of the boon she has got. And therefore, she was happily sitting in the fire, and the fire invoked, and Prahlāda was sitting there quite happily because fire cannot touch Prahlāda. He's protected by Nrsimhadev. But the fire engulfed Holika. And that's why, she was burnt to ashes. And in India, at least in Gujarat, we have this, during Gaur Punim, Holi, we also have a big bonfire. And we observe this pastime of Holika being burnt. And many people who come with their old clothes, the children's clothes, and put it in the fire to burn the disease condition in that fire, just like Holika was burnt. So they do these rituals, at least in Gujarat and also in Manipur. Because I have been in Manipur on many occasions on Holi, and they also make a small bonfire and observe this ceremony. Other parts of India, I don't know, but at least my understanding is that Holika was burnt because she did a misdeed, and that boon backfired on her.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maharaj. My Mahajanas has one question.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you. Guru Maharaj, one small, wonderful session, Guru Maharaj. It clarified so many doubts of mine. But one more doubt I have, that is, the ultimate goal of devotees is Narayan, while preaching Prahlāda Mahārāja says. But he did not recite Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Instead, he recited Om Namo Narayanaaya Namaha. So, is this both the mantras are having the same potency?
You have to understand that the holy name of the Lord is transcendental and pure. So there are different mantras in different times. For example, Dhruva Maharaj, in that Yuga, Narada Muni gave the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate-Vasudevaya.
Right.
Now the mantra for this age, Kali Yuga, it was recited, it was written down by Vedas in one of the Upanishads. And that mantra is for this age. Of course, people of this age of Kali are not so much attracted towards devotional life, or they are attracted towards spirituality. So they did not take heed of the instructions in the Upanishads until, of course, great saintly persons came and they introduced the path of devotion through holy name. As Prahlāda said, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaran, Padasevanam, and so forth. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself came and he said that this is the mantra of the age. So Hare Krishna mantra is for this age. So if we chant, say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya or Om Naranaya Vasudevaya or many other mantras, or even like Vishnu Sahasranam, they will have benefit, but won't have the complete benefit as you receive the benefit of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. As Srila Prabhupada says, that the entire Veda, the potency of all the Vedic mantras which invoke auspiciousness, are put in a nutshell of the 16 syllables of the Hare Krishna mantra. And this is a condensed capsule, so you don't have to take a whole huge amount of medication, just one pill. And with this one pill, you get everything. All your disease condition is sorted out. So that's my understanding, an analogy of the condensing all the mantras and potency in the Hare Krishna mantra, which is the Yuga mantra. That is why I say the Yuga Dharma is Harinam Sankirtan. And what is the Harinam? Is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Ram, Hare.
Very clear, man.
So
Thank
we
you
just
very
have to have faith and chant Hare Krishna and nothing else, because as far as I'm concerned, one pill is going to destroy all your illusions.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
Beautiful. Rajamani Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances unto your lotus feet. Maharaj, I have a doubt. I mean, because we all know that Prahlāda Mahārāja is a very pure devotee of the Lord. And is there any previous birth from him? I mean, like Narada Muni, because Narada Muni is the maid servant's son. Then after that, he become a devotee of Lord.
I have not got any information of such. I have heard someone say that he is Lord Brahmā, who took birth as Prahlāda, but I cannot for sure say that, because without a proper scriptural reference, I cannot say that. And I have not read anywhere in the Bhagavatam by Srila Prabhupada saying that. So I cannot for sure tell you what his previous birth was.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Any further questions or comments? We still have about 2.5 minutes.
Okay, so I will speak a little bit about Ahobilam.
Yeah, let's do that, Maharaj. Yes.
So it is very interesting that some years back, the devotees, the disciples of Srila Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami wanted to have a Vyasa Puja celebration in Ahobilam. Not in Ahobilam, but a small town, village, about 30 kilometers from Ahobilam. So we were all invited. So I went there with myself, Bhakti Jivan Maharaj, and a few Balinese devotees. But when we went there, it was discovered that the Vyasa Puja is not going to be held in an ISKCON center. It was going to be held in some other institute. It's not with ISKCON. So I sort of thought that I cannot go to a place which is not under the banner of ISKCON, because I cannot be seen to be supporting the project which are not ISKCON. I cannot give my, being my presence means that I'm accepting that project is bona fide. So I discussed with the devotees with my group and told them, I am consciously making this decision not to go to this Vyasa Puja in this place, but I will do one thing, that on the day of Vyasa Puja, I will go to all the 9 places of Nrsingadev in Ahobilam and pay my respects and pray to Nrsingadev that I get blessings of my Guru Maharaj on this auspicious day. So I gave a free hand to all the devotees who were with me, and they said, no, Maharaj, we're going to do exactly what you are doing. We will also follow you. So what we did was we went to Ahobilam, and then on the day of Vyasa Puja, I made a small offering in my room to Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, is my prayers to him and begging mercy from him to have blessings so that I can go on my yatra successful. And one thing was wonderful, that this Balinese devotee had brought some Balinese fruits to be offered to Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj on his Vyasa Puja. So since we were not going there, so I said, okay, what we will do is we will take this fruit with us, and every 9 temple we go to, we'll offer a little bit to each of the lords in the 9 temples. So then we started walking, and it is really difficult for me to walk those mountains, considering my health situation. But somehow or other, I kept praying and praying and praying, and we went to every one of those 9 temples. And we were, luckily, we visited all the 9 temples. We started around 8 o'clock in the morning, and we did not finish till 6 o'clock in the evening. This is all walking. And some of the places, they say that in the evening are quite dangerous to be up there, because it's a forestation, it's mountain. There are many wild animals up there. So you can be attacked by them if you're not careful. And also, if you don't know the path, you can get easily lost. So we went to all these 9 places of Nrsingadev's temples and paid our obeisances, our prayers, and we sung the Nrsinga prayers, which is given to us by Srila Prabhupada. And we had the most joyous time in our life to visit all this. And then the devotee said, we should come here every year. I was thinking, maybe it's not possible to come every year, but it is a good gesture. So after that, I went 2 times more, taking different groups of devotees on a South India pilgrimage tour. And every time we did this it is quite amazing to visit this place. And when you see these different temples, it is amazing in how isolated places they are. Of course, I suppose when there is Nrsimha Chaturdasi or special festival time, there's huge crowds. But when we were there was hardly any crowd, just a handful of people. So even if you get lost, there's nobody to ask directions. So, but somehow we were quite fortunate that we did not get lost. And I suppose Krishna in the heart was guiding us to all these wonderful places. And we had the most intimate darshan of all the manifestation of Lord Nrsimhadev. Only regret was that we could not go right on the top of the stamba. There's a small temple they've made to dedicate that place as an offering to Nrsimhadev's temple, but it is not the manifestation of the deity. It's just devotees have made it up there. But it's quite hazardous to climb that whole area. It is, you have to be a good mountaineer to climb there. But I said, no problem. I've touched and embraced the stamba. I've been there and taken darshan of all the 9 Nrsimhadevs. And it is said also that each 9 Nrsimhadev are a manifestation or not manifestation, but say representation of the Navagraha, the 9 planets. So you can also pray to the 9 planets, which will remove all obstacles in your path of devotion. So it is one of those wonderful experiences you can get by visiting Ahobilam. So I hope one day we can all go again together as a group and visit there. So I see one more hand there before we wind up. Is it okay to take one more question?
Yes, Maharaj. So Subal Prabhu, please speak up, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much for the always wonderful class. Maharaj, my question is not related to today's topic, but with your kind permission, I would like to have one of my, doubts which has been there for quite a long time clarified with you. Maharaj, this question relates to giving tips basically to people who give service. Sometimes you go to hotels or restaurants, or these people who come and do some service to us, they expect some kind of tip to be given to them. Now, as we understand that there is a probability that that tip can be misused by the person for eating non-veg or drinking liquor or something like that, and this is not the right way to give money to somebody. It could be in the mode of passion or ignorance. So but there are practical considerations because of which we sometimes cannot avoid giving a tip. There is a huge expectation from the other person because they are accustomed to receiving tips from customers. What should we do as devotees in such situations, considering both the Shastra, the rules, regulations, and the practical aspect of it? Should we give or should we not give, or is there any other third alternative to this?
Well,
thank you so much, Maharaj.
As far as scripture is concerned, Krishna says in the Bhagavata, whatever charity you give it to me. So for me, that's the bottom line. And as far as, say, some people, due to the service they may render to you, and they expect a tip, I think that is not a very good thing, because if they are working as a waiter, then they're getting a wage from the restaurant they're working for. So why they should expect something from a customer? Because the customer is already paying for the service he's being received, in terms of the charges he's going to pay for the food he eats there. So I don't feel that as a devotee, I make up a policy myself personally. Now, this is my personal policy. I don't give tips to anyone. No, because if they are working, they're getting paid. And if they're getting paid, then they should not expect anything. And for me also, I consider that begging is not a good thing. Even though he's expecting a tip from you, in one sense, it is kind of begging, So whether we are in Eastern country, Western country, Northern, Southern, doesn't matter. We should not give tips to anyone. If you want to show your appreciation just say some nice words to the person saying, oh, you've done very nice service. Thank you very much for your service you've rendered to me. Some kind words, and maybe I give an instruction or two about Krishna consciousness. That is my tip to them. I hope that clarifies your doubts.
Maharaj, yeah, that's a very nice answer. Maharaj, certain situations where practically that person does, meaning when they bring luggage into the hotel room, they stand there for even 3 minutes, 5 minutes also with the expectation of tip, not moving out of the room altogether. So with such a strong expectation, which has a, some kind of after effect on some service that they will give to us later, in such practical situations, should we still stick to the scriptures, or is there any middle ground somewhere?
No, there is no middle ground. What I would do if I were you, that if I'm regularly going to, traveling due to my occupation or whatever, and I have to go to hotels regularly, and my baggage is being carried to my room by the porter, then you should carry with you packets of prasadam. And after they are standing there for a couple of minutes expecting, you say, yes, thank you very much for your service rendered to me. Here's a little prasadam from Lord Jagannath, or this from Vrindavan or something, wherever you bring prasadam from. Give them some prasadam and just thank them. That's it. And they will know automatically that they're not going to get any money from you.
Perfect.
Because you see, in some places, actually, the porters are given a porter uniform and said no tips on the level.
Hare Krishna.
I think the connection is lost.
When you have material consciousness, what happens is that you have these expectations to get material wealth, and you are never satisfied. You give them more, they want more. And more you give, they want more and more. And what they're going to do with that? They indulge themselves in the materialistic activities, which will be binding to them. And you are assisting them for that. So you also get some reaction for it. So better to protect ourselves from all these things. That we should be very, very careful and mindful that we do not indulge in activities which are going to be harmful to us. Although we may do it out of a good heart. But as I said, good heart means better to give him some good instructions or some prasadam. And that's where we should leave it at.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, there's a comment from Sweta Saxena Mataji. She says, Maharaj, in some countries like the US, they're not included in the restaurant charge. So what do we do then? These tips are not included.
See, considering that if a waiter is working for a restaurant, he's getting paid. Now, the waiter who is working there, he doesn't have a contract with the restaurant that will pay you so much and the rest you're going to make it up in tips. It is not that. They're getting paid. And if you don't like the pay, you go to another job where you get a better pay. Or you look for another job which pays you better. But as far as my understanding is, this tip business is a Western concept where you want some service from someone. I remember one time, one friend of mine said, as soon as I go to a restaurant and the waiter who's in charge of my table, I just give him £5 straight away. Even before the service has started, because then that waiter will wait on you very nicely because he's already get some money from you. But I said that is not a proper way to do things. If you go to a restaurant, then you should get good service from the restaurant. If you are not satisfied with the service, you ask for the manager and says, what kind of service you are offering this? I'm paying for my food here. I'm not begging for you. So I don't accept that culture of tipping anyone. It may not sound very nice from my side, but my side is I will give them something Krishna conscious. And I don't even make a practice of going to restaurants anywhere. So I don't face these problems.
Maharaj, you're absolutely right that this is more of a Western and a US concept that has been thrust upon. In Asia, generally there is no tipping, and particularly China, if you were to go there, there is no concept of tipping. In fact, when you tip someone there, they feel embarrassed. And generally in the culturally also in Asia, people tend to serve, hospitality is like ingrained. But I guess the whole Western influence, particularly from the US, this has become a very kind of, it's kind of expected.
Well, I suppose it's a low-class culture. I'll tell you my experience. I went to the Himalayas, the Char Dham Yatra up there, and right up on the top of where the Vyas Gufa is, where Vyasadeva was writing the scriptures, and just before that, there's a small village you have to go through, and there are very poor people there. So I thought these are very, very poor people. Krishna has given me some money. So I felt so, overwhelmed by their poverty. I said, let me give them 50 rupees. They can buy something. And, when I went to offer 50 rupees to them, they felt so offended.
Yeah.
And so we are not beggars, they told me. I said, wow, such high morality these people have, even though they don't have money, but if someone is giving them, they don't want it.
Sure.
There's so much self-respect and pride. So I felt that, this is the culture in Eastern countries, you can say. But this is, I won't even say Western, it's more the US culture,
Yes, it is more of.
So we should not worry about US culture so much. It's a very low-class culture. It's devoid of spirituality,
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Maharaj. And thank all the devotees who asked, such wonderful questions. Particularly, we got to know more about Ahobilam. I think that was, you took us at least on a trip, but we certainly look forward to getting together with you once the Corona crisis kind of, settles down a little more. Travel begins, and we will indeed work it out by Krishna's mercy, along with you, to visit Ahobilam and many other places. And I'm sure many of our devotees who are in attendance would be looking forward for that. So on that note, yes, Maharaj, you want to say something?
I was just saying that even if you look at the video on YouTube of the Ahobilam made by quite a few devotees have made it. So you look at it, but it's not as good as being there.
Sure.
The physical exercise you got to do, and walk in the hills there, and then smell the air, and the anticipation of seeing the Lord is out of this world. So on that note, we'll say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. So thank you again for your kind association. And as always, we got so used to Maharaj that we have to go beyond the 12 Mahajans and see to it that we continue to have your association every Saturday. We still have got 5 more Mahajans to go. So we still got 5 more weeks, at least. If not, I hope some Mahajans would be 2 parts, or maybe it'll be the same as 1 part as we've been doing over the last 2 weeks. But whichever way, we've still got 5 more weeks to go, and then we will look forward to some of the sessions also. I also wanted to, inform all the devotees that besides the weekly sessions that we have, we are also having every morning every day from 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. Oman time, where we do Let the Nectar Flow sessions, which is Bhagavat Prava. We do the readings of Srimad Bhagavatam from 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m., 30 minutes. And 5 days a week from Sunday to Thursday, we also meet in the evening from 8 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. on the essence of Bhagavad Gita, where we do the readings through the Bhagavad Gita, including the illuminations by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I also wish to really state the inspiration that we have always got personally, I've got from His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj, is to just stick to the purports of Srila Prabhupada, stick to the books of Srila Prabhupada, read them, and apply them and realize them, and there is no need for anything else. And I think that has been one of the most wonderful instructions that I've received in association with His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj. And I hope that all of you are also having his association, will take up this wonderful shelter of Srila Prabhupada as he has actually established by his own life. So on that encouraging note, from the bottom of our hearts, we thank His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj for this wonderful session and beg for more and more of his association. Prahlāda Mahārāja ki jai.
Jai.
Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Divine grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Krishna Vancha Kalpataru Thank you, Maharaj, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, all the videos that are on, you can have the... Okay, let's call Radha Charan Prabhu. We can see him. There he is. Anupama Radharani Mataji, there she is. Love Kesh Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu.
Muralidhar Prabhu and Anusaya Mataji. Kandiya Prabhu. Vrindavan